My friend, come sit closer. No, not because I can't see you, though that's also true, but because some truths only sound honest when they're spoken softly. These old bones don't bend the way they used to, and if I lean too far just to talk, there's a very real chance I'll need help getting back up. And before you say anything, yes, I know you'd enjoy that far too much. Now listen, you asked me something the other day. Not the kind of question people ask out of curiosity, the kind they ask because life has already given them clues. Paul, why don't men approach anymore? What happens after a certain age? Ah, that question. That one doesn't sit in the head. It settles in the chest, right next to old disappointments and half-healed memories. Let me answer you the way an old man should. Slowly, honestly, with a few jokes mixed in, so neither of us has to admit how close this hits. I remember when approaching someone felt exciting. Your heart would race, your palms would sweat, you'd rehearse a line that sounded brilliant in your head and ridiculous out loud. Rejection hurt, sure, but it didn't define you. Back then, rejection was a moment. Later in life, it feels like a verdict. And that's where things change. The first truth, rejection stops feeling temporary. At a certain point, rejection doesn't just sting, it confirms fears men don't talk about, that you're outdated, that you missed your window, that whatever made you noticeable once has quietly expired. So, when a man considers approaching someone, he doesn't think, what if she says no? He thinks, what if she sees exactly what I've been trying not to see myself? And that thought alone can stop him cold. So he smiles politely, keeps his distance, tells himself it's better not to bother. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. The second truth, confidence doesn't disappear, it gets bruised. People think confidence fades with age. No, it gets worn down. It's still there somewhere under the surface, but it's been through things. Lost jobs, broken promises, relationships that ended without closure, years where effort didn't equal reward. So standing in front of someone new doesn't feel exciting anymore. It feels exposed, like stepping onto a stage without knowing your lines. And when confidence feels fragile, men protect it the only way they know how, by not testing it at all. The third truth, our bodies start speaking louder than our words. Let me say this plainly. A lot of men don't fear intimacy. They fear failing it. The body changes quietly. Energy isn't automatic anymore. Pain shows up uninvited. Things that once responded on command now require negotiation. Even if no one ever mentions it, the man knows. So, approaching someone becomes a mental argument filled with questions no one else can hear. What if I disappoint? What if I can't keep up? What if I'm not enough anymore? And rather than risk that kind of silence afterward, many choose silence beforehand. Now, before I go any further, and before this turns into one of my long-winded confessions, let me say something important. If any of this feels familiar, if it explains moments you've noticed but couldn't name, take a second, like this story, leave a comment, subscribe. Not for numbers, for connection. All right, back to us. The fourth truth, the rules changed and no one handed us the new ones. The world shifted, expectations shifted. What was once considered confidence now risks being labeled something else entirely. So men hesitate. They don't want to offend, they don't want to intrude, they don't want to misread a moment and regret it forever. And without clarity, hesitation becomes habit, silence becomes safety. Now lean in again, because this next part is the one most men never say out loud. The fifth truth, we're parrying ghosts. Old love doesn't fade politely. It lingers. People we lost, people we let go, people we should have fought harder for.
And when you've loved deeply once, really deeply, the idea of doing it again feels like reopening a wound you barely survived the first time. So some men choose memory over risk, not because they don't want companionship, but because they don't trust themselves to survive another goodbye. There are more truths, some funny, some uncomfortable, some that would make a younger version of me blush. And if you stay with me, I'll tell you all of them. Because the real truth is, men don't stop wanting connection as they age. They stop believing they're welcome to reach for it.
Now, where were we? Ah, yes, the truths men rarely finish saying out loud. I told you there were more, and these next ones, they're quieter, heavier, and somehow a little funny in the saddest way possible. The sixth truth: we're afraid of becoming a burden. This one humbles a man faster than any mirror ever could. There comes a moment, different for everyone, when a man looks at his hands and wonders how long they'll stay steady. He looks at the stairs and thinks about the day they might start looking back at him like enemies. He feels a pain and asks himself not what it is, but how permanent it might be. And suddenly, love doesn't feel romantic anymore. It feels risky, because love means being seen, and being seen means someone might notice the cracks. Men don't want to hear, "Do you need help with that? Are you sure you should be doing this? Maybe you should sit down." Not because those words are cruel, but because they remind us of the day we've been trying not to imagine. So instead of approaching someone and risking the possibility of becoming the one who needs help, men step back. They protect their pride like it's the last thing they own. And in many ways, it is. The seventh truth: we don't want to start something we can't finish. This one keeps man awake at night. We start thinking in timelines instead of moments. How long do I really have? Is it fair to invite someone into my life now? What happens if I go first? Those thoughts weigh more than you think. When you're young, love feels infinite. Later, it feels borrowed. And some men decide it's kinder not to begin a story if they can't promise the ending. So they choose distance instead of devotion, silence instead of sincerity. Not because they don't care, but because they care too deeply. The eighth truth: we're tired of explaining ourselves. This one makes me laugh and sigh at the same time. At a certain age, a man gets tired of explaining why he's quieter, why he wakes up early, why crowds exhaust him, why memories matter more than plans. He doesn't want to justify his pace, his preferences, or his past. Approaching someone new means starting from zero, and sometimes zero feels exhausting. So men retreat into routines where no explanations are required. The same chair, the same coffee cup, the same quiet evenings. Comfortable? Yes. Lonely? Also yes. Now, let me tell you something most men would never admit. If a woman approached us, kindly, warmly, without pressure, most of us would melt faster than butter on a hot pan. Not because we're desperate, but because we didn't think it was still possible. A simple smile, a genuine question, a moment that says, "I see you." That can undo years of self-doubt. Let me lean in for this next part, because this one matters. The final truth: we never stopped wanting love. Despite everything I've told you, the fear, the hesitation, the ghosts, the pride, the desire never left. It just learned how to stay quiet. Men still want companionship, laughter across a table, someone who understands the pauses in conversation, someone who doesn't rush them or dismiss them,
someone who sees the man, not the age. And when that happens, when a man feels safe enough to believe he's still welcome, friend, you'd be amazed how alive he becomes. Now, let me say this gently. If you ever wonder why a man didn't approach, it wasn't because you weren't attractive. It wasn't because you weren't interesting. It wasn't because you weren't enough. Most of the time, it was because he didn't think he was. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. And if this story stirred something in you, something familiar, something tender, don't keep it to yourself. Like the story, leave a comment, subscribe, because somewhere out there is someone sitting alone with the same questions, hoping for a little understanding. Now, come here. Let this old man sit quietly for a moment. We've said enough truth for one day.